What is up? We are live. I am so excited to have you guys here on Podcast Rebellion. I have a lot of exciting things to tell you today, and I cannot wait for you to hear exactly what we have in store. But first, I want to talk about something I saw on Twitter. And every week, I'm going to start talking about something I saw on Twitter, probably something smart or really something dumb. So it could be either way. But I want you guys to understand that every single week, we're going to have something for you that isn't Baseball Rebellion specific. It's going to be something that I've seen or my future co-host has seen, which you're going to find out about in just a second, that we think is important for you guys to think about. Now, Dan Gratz is a kind of a Twitter famous, somewhat hitting coach, right? Now he's one of the director of operations or director of player development at Texas softball. And I think he's actually a pretty smart dude. There's a lot of people on Twitter that are not like Dan, who really haven't put their time in the way they should have, and they haven't really done the critical thinking. They're just applying things kind of randomly, and we want to definitely avoid that. So earlier today or yesterday, Dan said, quote, "Blocked drill work is a major piece of teaching and learning a specific movement pattern. If an athlete can't grasp a concept consistently, moving on to game speed randomized training can be too much failure and ultimately be a detriment. Individualized programming is essential." So what I want everybody to understand about that is, one, I 100% agree with Dan right here. And he doesn't even know that I'm featuring his tweet right now. I think it's really, really important that people think about what they see on Twitter and try to understand that they don't have any context to a certain drill or a certain grouping of drills. And I think that is really dangerous for people to just go ahead and apply certain things inside of those training protocols for the players that they actually work with now. One of the things that a lot of people really miss, okay, is they just take a drill and they just throw it out there. And it may be completely out of context for what a player needs or what a player is ready for. One of the things we do here at Baseball Rebellion and Softball Rebellion with all of our athletes is we make sure that they have a foundation of movements that matter. They understand how to rotate before we stress that rotation. And one of the things I think a lot of people really, really miss is they think that just making something really hard will allow the athlete to immediately master something that they couldn't do before. Think about how people learn everything else in their life, other than things they need to have to live. So we intuitively breathed as children who were born. We intuitively, as healthy, fully functioning adults, learn how to walk. Now, some people don't, and they have different lives because of that. Hitting a baseball or softball is not one of those things that you need to live. And that's one of the things I think a lot of these motor learning people miss is they don't think about, how did you teach your child to use the bathroom by themselves or brush their teeth or cut their food? How did they learn to ride a bike? You didn't just hand them a bike and say, good luck. You ran behind them. You gave them cues. You taught them these things. And that's exactly how we teach athletes now inside of how they rotate. And I think a lot of people really miss that. And you see a lot of like double machine with strobe glass garbage on Twitter, Instagram, all these Instagram famous people that don't actually work with players that need real training. And when you work with the amount of players that we have here at Baseball Rebellion, whether it's young novice players or whether it's major league first round draft picks or 500 home run guys like Manny Ramirez, they all need different things, but all of them can be better at the things that matter, the movements that matter inside of the swing, the basics. That's what made guys like Kobe Bryant so impactful to the game. They could practice the mundane basics often, early and often. 4 o'clock in the morning, he's doing basic cone drills. I remember Jason Williams always talks about how he would see Kobe early in the morning. He's already got a sweat. It's 5 in the morning. Jay Williams was trying to beat him to the gym, and Kobe's already gone through his whole thing. He played him that night. Kobe had 40 points. He asked him, he said, "Hey, Kobe, like, what were you doing? Why were you there so early?" And Kobe said, I wanted you to know that no matter how hard you worked, you couldn't outwork me. And there's people that work hard and there's people that work smart. And Kobe was somebody who was willing to drill down on the basics. And those basics are the movements that matter. And those are the things that allow you to adjust and adapt in real game situations based off of a solid foundation of movement principles that work in a game instead of just randomized, failure-based, constantly struggling situations that crush confidence, and they actually are deleterious to most movements that will actually work. This opening rant was brought to you by Credo Bat Weight. Credo is unlike any other weight available. It is designed to be attached to the hands, and this unique placement will improve hand speed, bat speed, exit velocity, and power. Best of all, you can use your own bat when you're using the Credo Bat Weight. Credo weights range from 10 to 40 ounces, so no matter how large or small your hitter is, they've got the right weight to make your hitter swing great. Visit credosports.com and use code CPLive to get 10% off your first order. Credo Bat Weights at credosports.com. Unleash the power. Now, guys, I am so excited to introduce somebody who I've gotten to know over the last 3 years. Now, he's a Durham boy who forsake me his entire career as a young player. He was too cool for school, didn't want to come see Baseball Rebellion. And that's the thing. We want to make sure that people understand that even if you don't come to Baseball Rebellion as a young kid like you should have, you can finally make the right choice and come see us later. I'm going to introduce Will Hoyle. Will Hoyle was a draft pick out of high school, from Jordan High School, and he walked on at Duke. And Will has progressed as from a key reserve in 2019 to somebody who saw action in 47 games and started 33 at second base. He's a team leader and somebody that I absolutely love learning some fun stuff about baseball, kind of humor and some funny things that I didn't play as long as he did. So, Will, I want to bring you in. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I'm super excited to have you as part of Podcast Rebellion.
What's going on? Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Now, this is going to be great. So, Will, talk to me a little bit about, obviously you were a really good high school player, right? And you can't go to Duke if you're not a good high school player. Like, yeah, you're a Durham boy, and you and Crab are kind of representing. I think Nifong's coming in here from around here. Who else? Beasley. There's some Durham guys that end up at Duke, right? And that's all well and good. But being a token guy on the team and then actually being like a big time player that's like making real plays. Talk to me about how did you change from somebody who saw no action in 2018 to being like a real team leader and somebody who they count on every day?
Well, I feel like coming in, the reason why I got a chance there is just because I was a good defensive player, and I fortunately had a lot of people who like stuck their neck out for me and basically begged them to let me come. And thank the Lord they took a chance on me. But I'd say the biggest thing that I did was, one, I put on a lot of weight, which helped because I'm still small, but I was smaller. I was too small to really be able to be a good offensive player. And secondly, I just kind of worked on my swing because I knew I could play defense at that level, but at the time I couldn't necessarily swing it with ACC college team. So the biggest thing for me was just getting my swing right and getting a lot stronger. And that was kind of the difference maker for me. And then I think the reason why I was able to stick around to get to that point was just trying to stay positive and have a good attitude and be a guy that people on the team like to be around and that the coaches like to be around. I think that was big for me, especially early on.
That's funny you say that the coaches like to be around. And I think people really underrate the reality that a coach, when I talk to coaches about players, one of the first thing they ask me is, am I going to want to coach this kid for 3 or 4 years? And, I answer honestly all the time because that answer reflects on my ability for them to trust me going forward for other players. And honestly, these coaches want to be around kids that they enjoy. Like if you're fun to coach and you give feedback to people in a positive way, Coaches are going to give you more, just like teachers will want to give you more if you sit in the front row versus sit in the back and never go to class. Obviously, that's not an option at Duke, man. If you don't go to class at Duke, you're in some real trouble, unless maybe you're on the basketball team. But I don't really know how that works, right? So, again, Will Hoyle's joining us from the baseball team here at Duke Baseball. He's going to be a co-host with me going forward, and he's going to be talking a lot about, as we move forward, exactly what it's like to be a Power 5 Division I player. So, Will, what's a day in the life of Will Hoyle or any Duke player, freshman, sophomore, junior, whatever, as like the fall goes, when you're going into that real nitty gritty fall stuff, or then how's that change after Christmas? Talk about that.
Yeah, so the fall is definitely a really big grind, probably worse than the spring just because you're not playing actual games. You don't have that fun aspect of it. Not that practice isn't fun, but it's just a little bit tougher when you're not playing against other competition. So really, especially in undergrad, I have a little bit more class now, but you have 1 or 2 classes a day. I normally started around 10 and finished around 1. Eat breakfast before, go to class, get lunch on the way to the locker room.
Bojangles, right?
Locker room. Yeah, a lot for me. Or we have really good food on campus, so I get that a lot. But yeah, you just kind of get food, eat in the locker room, hang out for a little bit, and then we normally start practice around 3. So get up there 3 or 3:30, get up there 2:30, kind of stretch, do early work. For me, I'll try and come get some swings with y'all either before class or in between class and early work. So when my early work is more defensive based or just like mobility, our coaches do a great job. They put together a program for us this year called Player Development Program, PDP. So it has specific like mobility things for you to do. So I'll get there like an hour, 30 minutes to an hour early, take some swings maybe if I need to feel something for practice, and then I'll do like my mobility stuff or do stuff in the mirror just to get right. Then if it's a scrimmage day, we'll have a 4-hour practice. So we either jump right in if we're trying to play 9, like just dynamic throw, play, maybe do some infield before. Or if it's a regular practice day, we'll dynamic throw, base run, team defense, all that jazz. And then we'll have lift at 5:45. So it's about a 2.5-hour practice, sometimes 3. And then we lift for an hour and then eat. We have a great thing. It's called Training Table at Duke, where we get to eat all together, and they have good, like, healthy food for us, and that's really fun. So we do that a lot, and then that's about it.
So what do you think? So you mentioned that you come and hit with us here at Baseball Rebellion, right? Now, a lot of coaches would be not only wary of that, but probably against it. And Coach Pollard, Coach Steen, Coach Jordan at Duke, I mean, they not only do they know you come see us, but they're happy with it. You know, they it's not like a secret. You're not sneaking over here. The cool thing about what we do is that it works with what your coaches want you to do. Can you talk a little bit about how what you do with Eric Tyler, who's your main guy that you work with, and the program here at Baseball Rebellion doesn't get in the way or step on the toes of your coaches, and how it enhances what they want you to do?
So our coaching staff, obviously, right when they came into a struggling program and had success like right away. I mean, they everywhere that they've gone, Coach Pollard and Coach Jordan, and now Coach Steen and Coach Gordon, everywhere they've gone, they've won. And I think a big part of that is that they're super forward thinking. So Coach Steen does a great job. He's our hitting coach. He does a great job with us using Blast or using TrackMan data, meeting with us. They will all work so hard to help us get the biggest and the best things that we can have. And I think me needing to get extra reps, it kind of stemmed. I came in the summer after my sophomore year, and I think that was just a good off-season program for me, and everybody saw me make a good jump offensively that I had to make, frankly, to ever get playing time. And so Coach Steen and I were sitting in one of our meetings my junior fall, I think, and I had been struggling that fall, and we kind of came to the conclusion that, just as it's sort of been the case my whole life, I got to get a few more swings than other people to remain productive. So just in terms of a rep standpoint, since I was able to come in before class and actually have somebody throwing to me, because the NCAA only allows so many hours.
Right.
So our coaches do a great job setting up the machines and doing all that and getting us ready to have early work. But I was able to have somebody, throw to me and work with me just from a rep standpoint. And
Sure.
then secondly, kind of what we talked about earlier is I didn't really have like the bat speed or the rotational skill, I think is the words you use for it, which I really like. That like we do a great job with blast. Coach Steen does a great job, teach us mechanics, teach us approach, things like that. But with you guys and like the Rebels rack and things like that, I really learned how to actually turn. And now our coaches saw that with me and Crabtree and some other guys, and we actually, like I said, they're super forward thinking, super open to everything. It's what makes them amazing and why it's so fun to play for them. Like we do Rebels Rack stuff now in the weight room, and we use like the same things that you teach as our team. But I mean, really the bottom line for me is one, the work that we do complements what they say. You guys aren't teaching me crazy stuff that's different. And second, I just was a guy that needed more reps, frankly. And it was just a little easy for me to get in there.
And you're exactly right. And you remember a couple years ago, I'm KVS certified in golf and baseball, and they had me come out and test the guys because you guys didn't currently have a KVS certified person on staff. I mean, TrackMan's great, Blast is great, but sometimes you got to know how somebody really moves. And that's what I was able to do there. And seeing how you and Crab specifically have improved, and then how guys that we've worked with who were drafted and have moved on, like Loperfido and Rothenberg and Murray, those guys, it's been just really fun to see how we are able to communicate at a high level with you, with your coaches, and make sure that the stuff that we're doing complements them. I mean, you said it yourself. The last thing we want to do is be an adversarial situation with a coach, whether it's high school, middle school, travel ball, or obviously Power Five, team that's winning ACC tournaments. Speaking of winning the ACC tournament, what was that like?
Well, for me, that was extra special. I think just being from Durham and like representing Duke and obviously loving ACC sports growing up. I used to go to the tournament all the time because it was usually in Durham at the DBAP, and that was special. I mean, we kind of talked about walking on earlier when I first got on, and like my freshman year, I was literally a 35th guy, like on a 35-man team. Like coach will tell you that, I'll tell you that. Like I'm not making that up. That's a fact. And so being able to like be on the field as we call it the final out for our first ACC title in like 60 years was like, it was super special. I told Mike and Joey, who you talked about earlier, I told them our freshman year that would be the coolest thing to do is to hang a banner. And after that game, Mike comes up to me. He's like, I remember we first got here. Like, I thought you were crazy. Like, I didn't think you'd be that sick, but like, that was the coolest thing ever. Like, that might be the coolest thing we ever did in our life. And I was like, yeah, that was pretty special. And just like, I mean, you go through so much with each other, including the coaching staff. Like, hugging Ethan Murray at shortstop was just as cool as hugging Coach Steen, who's like my guy, Coach Pollard, like who took a chance on me. Just like seeing all that come to fruition is super special.
That's so cool, man. And obviously I never got to win a conference tournament when I was at NC State, where I went to out of high school. But I did win one conference tournament championship at UNC Asheville. And I remember walking around with that trophy and getting my ring, which probably has way less real diamonds than your ring will or does, because Asheville's not quite the powerhouse ACC that Duke is. But, I have that ring somewhere, and I used to wear it occasionally, and I still look at it sometimes. And, those are the types of things you think about. And as somebody that's 39 years old and, 25 years out of playing, 15 years out of playing, excuse me, you don't really miss the games itself. You miss like the bus rides and the locker rooms and those experiences where everybody's hugging and everybody's winning and the small school that's few and far between. So I'm really glad you got to experience that for sure. Talk to me about how fun it's been to see how your role has changed over the years, right? So you talked about being the 35th guy on a 35-man team. I mean, I want everybody to really think about that for a second. I mean, this is a guy who was drafted at a high school, and he's looking around and he's like, whoa, these dudes are good. And I'm not quite there yet. Obviously you put on a lot of weight. Your strength program in an ACC school is going to be spectacular. What advice can you give high school athletes who maybe are a little bit underdeveloped, or maybe some middle school kids or the parents of those kids who maybe are a little bit behind, maybe don't have some facial hair quite yet, and they're playing catch up? How do you tell them to get, skills that scale so that when they do grow and when they do lift and that testosterone starts flowing and they get some strength, how can they maximize their ability going forward?
I think there's a few points I feel like that brings up for me. One is just like coming out of high school. My dad always said it. He was in a similar situation as me. He walked on the football team at Wake Forest and was super small coming out of high school. And like the hardest part a lot of time for guys is just getting a jersey. And that was certainly the hardest part for me. I was begging people to let me come play. And I knew I could do it if I could just get there. And I knew that if I stuck around long enough, I would catch up or just like my skills would come out. And I
Right.
think honestly, in the end, being having to play that catch up helped me out a lot in the long run because I knew I had to have specific tangible things that I was good at to bring value to be able to get the jersey and be able to get a chance. So like I worked on my speed all the time because I knew I was going to have to be fast. I worked on my things like bunting and stuff to add that skill set to my game, and then especially like I mentioned earlier, defense. I worked to like be the best defender on any. That was my goal, was to be the best defender on any team I played on. And I don't think if I was 6'5" as a junior in high school, I don't know if I would have developed all those skills that now help me out so much as I play. And like, I wouldn't say I've caught up, but I've closed the gap in terms of like size and things like that. But no, it definitely paid off for me in the long run. And I feel like besides like physical talent that I guess I developed or had naturally, the biggest thing that I had was the ability to work hard. I feel like is my best like skill. And when other people were kind of the hardest part is certainly your junior year of high school because all my friends that I work out with every day are committing and getting offers and like it just wasn't happening for me.
Right.
And so like going into the weight room every day and the cage every day it becomes harder. But now when you have the chance and like you're showing up to the weight room wearing a Duke baseball shirt, it makes it a lot easier because you've done it during those times. So I guess you said advice to give or like things that come out from, I guess, my path here is just like stick around. I just tried to stick around as long as I could. And doing that, I just tried to develop as many skills as I could so more teams would take me. And my high school team gave me a chance. And then Coach Pollard gave me a chance. And then now I've just kind of grinded my way, just try to take what they tell me I need to get better at and get better at it. And then now it's kind of worked out a little bit.
And you've absolutely done that. I mean, obviously you work primarily with Eric Tyler, who's taking a huge role at Baseball Rebellion that we're going to be announcing very, very soon. I'm super happy for him. He has earned it, more than earned it, as I transition and doing some other things. But you've worked with him, and I've watched your exit velocity change. I've watched how you hunt hits and how you understand where the hits live inside the cage and how you can practice things that actually play and produce production. Nobody cares. Listen up, athletes. Nobody cares about how hard you work if you don't produce. You got to produce at this level. If you're not putting up numbers and you're not a positive influence in winning a game on the field, you are not going to be on that field. So Will has changed himself from somebody who didn't see game action and starting 6 games his first year in 2019, he did play, to being like a legitimate starter. And me seeing every day from a couple cages away, the work that you've done, that Crab's done, even guys like Erickson has done and Murray and Loperfido and all these different guys that have come in, and just seeing how their production's improved, how their clarity with what they're trying to do has improved. It's just really, really cool to see, from an older guy who you don't work with as much, just watching how you interact with Eric and interact with Luke and how your teammates come in and they're super positive and everybody's really on the same team. There's no animosity. There's no negative chirping in the building when you guys are around. It's been really, really cool to see. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Yeah, it's fun. And like that kind of goes back to like what we talked about earlier. You're saying like you got to produce to get on the field and stuff at this level. And people like hard work is great until, you actually can show it. But at the same time, like sticking around and being a positive influence on the team by your hard work or just like positive attitude, even if you're not producing can help you just stick around, which is a term I've used a lot, I feel like, over the last few minutes. And it's important. Like, I wouldn't, like you said, I started 6 games. I redshirted my freshman year, started 6 games my second year. And that was just because Ethan got hit in the face. Like, I wasn't really contributing anything to winning games except for being a good practice player and like,
Right.
just like showing up and grinding every day. And I feel like when you're not playing and stuff, there's a lot of value in that, and people see that and then they want to give you a chance. That's like
Right.
another thing my dad and I always talked about when I was coming up is like taking away any friction to you like getting a chance. And for me, a lot of that was working hard and like having a good attitude and being a guy that people wanted to be around even when you weren't playing. So I mean, there's like, until you can produce, there's a lot of value in just like putting your nose down and like grinding it out.
I 100% agree with that. And I honestly wish I had a little bit more feel as far as that goes when I was a player. And even now on Twitter, I pop off every once in a while. People, I mean, Jeff Fry can go get lost. But, my point is I have learned some things from you, right? I mean, when people hit the ball off the wall, you're talking about Vans, that's off the wall, like stupid stuff like that you say. Like I think about it a lot. I think
Such a good line.
Funny. Vans, that's off the wall, man. Like it is a good line. And as we get better at doing this together, I'm going to learn a lot about you from the player side, because I am 15 years removed from it. And I think that there's value there because I have some wisdom from having coached kids, since you were 7, right? There's value there, but there's also value in elevating guys like Eric to really take a leadership role as a younger coach, as an up and coming coach, as a super talented coach who maybe can connect with you guys on a little bit more personal level, friend to friend, as opposed to, maybe mentor or even father figure kind of speaking like I tend to do sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Eric, he's the best that there is. Like, I tell people all the time that off season, it was between it was the off season in the summer of 2019, I believe.
Right.
That I like started hitting with y'all.
Yep.
And it was because Crabtree was sort of directed in your direction, and I was living with him, so I was like, all right. And Eric kind of, I mean, it goes all back to y'all's foundation, like what you've built and everybody, but Eric specifically, just we kind of speak the same language. Everybody has their guy that they like to go home to in the off season, stuff like that.
Sure.
And I'm just super lucky that you guys are in Durham and I go to school here, but he's just like the best. Like
y'all vibe.
I mean, yeah, even today though, like we're kind of just trying to fix something righty, because obviously I switch it and we're trying to fix something righty that's just super broken, and he has this idea and we're grinding it out, and I'm like, I feel like I literally said this today, it's just stupid. I was like, doing this, I feel like I can't get to the low pitch, and he was like, that's dumb, you already do whatever really well, so it's really specific, but you already do that really well. And I was like, well, also I feel like I can't get to the high pitch because of that. And he's like, what are you saying? Like, you're being stupid right now. And I was like, yeah, that is dumb. But then at the same time, I was like, this is in my head, and we're like, my whole point of that story is I just trust him. So like, I just trust him. I'm like, this is what's going on in my head. Like, I need you to talk me off this cliff because I need to be like fully bought in. And he's like, all right, quit being dumb. Like,
he's earned that. He's earned that with you, right? I mean, that's
exactly.
And that's the same way you think about Steen and Pollard and those guys too. Like, they've earned that respect because they've taken the time to be there with you with their hand in the dirt, making sure that they're doing the work that they can do, whether it's the coaches at Duke or Eric, on your swing and on your movement flaws and on your movement skills that are very unique to you. They're doing the work before you get here. There's always a plan, whether it's practice plan at Duke or rotational skill work at Baseball Rebellion. There is always a plan, whether it's for you, a softball athlete, it doesn't really matter. We grind it out and we're there early. I mean, a lot of people don't really realize this. I mean, I get to work at 9:30 every day because I take my youngest son to preschool. Eric's beaten me there the last couple weeks. I mean, that dude is doing his homework. He's learning the business side. He's grinding on stuff for you and Crab and those guys. And I tell you what, I mean, every time I talk to Eric and Luke and JK and Ryan about hitting, I mean, I feel like I learned something. I mean, they really have good thoughts all the time. And we all have this same basis of understanding, right? So if Eric is out, you can come hit with me and work on your movements with me, and you still get something that you really value and you really enjoy. It's not like I'm going to be something crazy, saying something crazy that like messes you up or goes against what Coach Steen wants you to do. Because obviously, all of us defer to Coach Steen because he's the hitting guy at Duke. I mean, we're going to defer, and if he tells us there's something wrong, or if you tell us there's something wrong, we want to make sure that we're a part of that solution. So I love the relationship we have with those guys. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I mean, you bring up like getting there early and stuff. My senior year, so last year, it was like super COVID, everything. And we had online class, and I started at like 10. And every single day for, I guess it's like basically the full school year, because I did it during the season too. Eric met us there at 8:15 or 8:30, like every single day. Joey and I and Mike sometimes like 5 days a week, we would get up before class and he would be there. And like that is just why I think we have a good relationship. Like not that specifically, but just like I know that he'd do anything for me just in general. Right. So then it makes it a lot easier to trust him with my swing, which like right now is obviously one of the most important things in my life. But anyways, I just want to say that because he just like that. I'll like never forget that kind of thing, you know. And it's even after baseball, like we'll be right. That's like my guy right there.
And if Eric couldn't have gone, then somebody else would have met you there, right? Like
yeah, they have before. Like right. I hit with JK I think at 8 a.m. a few times. And it's like y'all just have our back really well. And I mean, like we talked about earlier, I just like have to. I don't know what it is. It's been my whole life. I feel like I've had to do a little bit more than like other people, even my friends. Like I just have to swing every day. And so for me, I felt like if I didn't get my swings in, then I was just off. Like I would kind of freak out, honestly. And so just having like Eric who would meet me, and if he couldn't, like 3 or 4 other guys that would do it for me, like that was huge for me. And really one is just like special, like that people would do that for me, but also it helped me out so much because I needed it really, really bad.
And this is something you don't know about us, right? So when you guys are playing games, I mean, we've got the ACC network on in the building, and parents are like looking at you guys and talking to their 10-year-old, like, yo, that's Will Hoyle, that's Ethan Murray. They play at Duke. Like, how cool is that? And you guys don't hear that. You probably don't see that the same way that obviously I see it, you know? So I see, you know, the young girls come in and they get autographs from some of the softball players that I work with. Right. And I see these kids, you know, blue blood, Carolina, Duke, NC State fans, but they see you guys and they're like, wow, like that can be me one day. And that's the cool part about the culture of Baseball Rebellion. And you've been involved with Baseball Rebellion now for 3 years. Talk about like the culture of BR when you're in the building, how the parents are, how the kids are. Like it's just such a unique thing that's what I think I'm most proud about of everything about Baseball Rebellion is that we can have like famous first rounders in there. We can have Duke players in here, which around here are probably more famous than the random first rounders that come in. And you guys, nobody bothers you, but also like you're like a huge role model of those kids, and they do watch what you do.
I think honestly it makes it more fun for us. Like the college season and just baseball in general is kind of a grind. And like when, first of all, just from the instructors take away the other people, I leave there with more confidence than I came in with. Like you guys and Eric specifically, like just instill so much confidence in me that like is almost more important than the actual mechanical work that I do, where I feel like I can do it. Cause there's a lot of times you get imposter syndrome really bad, especially like as a walk-on and things like that, where one of the biggest changes for me going to Baseball Rebellion versus not is just feeling like I belonged and like I could do it. And like Eric and I have super lofty goals now. and I feel I don't like shy away from them. And it's like I never would have thought that I could do these things without just going in there. So that's the first
Well,
thing.
hey, let me put you on the spot then. Talk about your goals. I mean, come on now. Don't be scared.
We're going for the ACC batting title this year.
Let's go.
Which that would be the last few years, 380 would win it, which takes about 80 hits. So
let's
go.
go. So we just started a tally system at work for like not cleaning the cages up. Maybe we'll have like a Hoyle hit tally as well. And we'll
just make sure
update
you got a lot
that.
of room.
That's right.
Make
we'll
sure there's a lot of
update
room.
that as the season goes. Say, thank God I rake, right? Thank God I rake.
Yeah, every day I just wake up and say, thank God I rake. Then I come into the facility. No, but back to the original question, like it's fun, man. Like the high school kids will be done hitting an hour before I start, and they'll hang around just to like watch us hit, which is inspiring. Like it gives you energy.
Or they'll work in. They work in with you guys.
They hit with us all the time too. But like what's even cooler is just when they come out like and just watch. Like it makes you feel good because you're like somebody cares, and two, it energizes you. Like, all right, let's have a good one today. Like that's showing like people actually care about what you're doing, and that's super inspiring. And I think energizing is a better word, but that's fun for me. And like even the other day, I was talking to Eric. There was a young kid that his dad said I was like his favorite player or whatever. So we do a fielding lesson. And I kind of realized I'm giving a fielding lesson, which one was so fun for me, like working with a kid like that and him just saying him like enjoy it. But also I found out that like something that I do with my hands that like I gave myself a fielding rule, which is like when I play one-handed, I like to field through it. When I play two-handed, I like to funnel. And I never thought about it that black and white until I was explaining it to this kid. So it's like you talked about it today. You feel like every time you talk to JK or Eric, you learn something. And it's like just being in that environment and being around young kids who are asking you about baseball or being around Eric or being around whoever, you're just talking baseball all the time and you find diamonds in the rough like constantly. Yeah. And I mean, not to ramble, but another example of that, Eric and I were just talking, we weren't even hitting yet. And we're talking about a right-handed swing. And he's like, this is probably 2 weeks ago. And he's like, I just feel like you're working up to balls that you don't have to work up to. And that just really clicked with me. It was just in the middle of a sentence that clicked. I was like, what did you just say? He's like, I feel like you're working up to balls you don't have to work up to. And I was like, oh my God, like I feel that. Like that is so true. Like, can we keep hitting? He's like, yeah. And then he says, he's like, over the thousands of things I've ever said to you that I would not put that in the top 500, like most important, but you just kind of never know what will click or what will come out of conversation. And I think at the facility, there's just a great environment there that's conducive to learning new things.
You're exactly right. And, you mentioned the high school kids and middle school kids checking you guys out. I mean, I had an 8th grade girl that I was working with tonight, and I had 2 future Division I high school softball players working right next to her. And I was trying to make some points to her about, you've got to hit the ball certain heights and certain speeds to get where you want to go. And those girls like took the time out to like talk to her between their like rotations and stuff. And that's just such a unique thing because sometimes, you can go to a facility where, the pro guys are over here and the college guys are over here. And then the high school kids are over here and they don't really interact because they don't feel like they're on the same level. At Baseball Rebellion, I mean, I trained Manny Ramirez right next to a 9-year-old. Like, I don't care. They pay the same money. So we're going to treat everybody with respect. We're going to treat everybody with we're going to show everybody that we value them here. And I think you see that on a day-to-day basis. And that's why you want to do something like this with me. And that's why you want to make sure that you talk so glowingly about Eric and Luke and JK and those guys and Ryan, because they really care. And even Ryan, when he's in early, who I don't know if you've ever worked with, he's one of our newer instructors. I mean, he'll come out and just watch you guys and listen and learn and just constantly be just a sponge for new information. And that's the same kind of stuff that I try to do here, and then elevate guys like you who have a lot to say. So, Will, I want to wrap it up here because it's been 40 minutes after 10 o'clock. You guys, you probably got to get some sleep, right? You got to be fresh for practice. You know what I mean? And
yeah, I'll be getting right to bed.
That's right. I know how that is at 22. So, but again, I'm really excited to have you as a co-host on this podcast, and we're going to be doing this more and more. And Podcast Rebellion is going to grow. We're going to be live on Instagram. We're going to be live on YouTube. We're going to be live on Twitter. Please subscribe, follow us. Make sure that you're paying attention to what Will's Instagram and it's Willie's Instagram, Baseball Rebellion Instagram, Twitter, stuff like that, because we're going to be putting out a lot of different things. And one really cool announcement I have is Will is going to be running our TikTok going forward. So we're super excited about that because I don't know anything
The
about
one thing
TikTok.
I'm good at.
Yeah, that's right. He's TikTok famous. So, look for insider content from Will about what's a day in a life of Duke, like what's something funny going on with the team. And then also highlights of things like this, drill videos, different things. So I'm super excited to get to know you. I've really enjoyed getting to know your father as well. And all the guys at Duke have just been so inviting and welcoming. Your coaches are super cool. So, guys, Podcast Rebellion, it's going to be huge. And Will, thanks for being a part of it, buddy.
Of course, man. I'm excited.
All right, every 9:30 Eastern time on Wednesday night, we're going to do this live on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, like I said. But we're also going to be putting this out as a audio podcast as well. And then we're going to be having little snippets of this on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all kinds of different things. So make sure that you subscribe to all those things. Like, share, subscribe, click it all. That's what we need. And thanks again. And we'll see you next week on Podcast Rebellion. See you around, Will.
See you tomorrow.